Welcome to another deep dive with us. And today we're going all the way to Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Ah, Point Pleasant.
You know, the town that became famous for maybe a monster, maybe not.
Right, the Mothman.
The Mothman. So we get a ton of great listener sources on this. Eyewitness accounts, folklore studies, and even some pop culture stuff.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how this, small town legend kind of blew up into a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
So I think we should, explore the history of the creature,
Okay.
the whole culture around it, and its impact, not just on Point Pleasant, but, on everybody's fascination with the unknown.
So let's set the stage a little bit. Point Pleasant's not just any small town. It's got a long history.
Oh,
It goes back to French exploration. There was even a Revolutionary War battle there.
Wow.
But okay, let's be real. It's Mothman that put it on the map.
Right,
Right.
for sure.
The first sightings that we know of popped up in November 1966.
Okay.
And things got weird pretty quick.
Oh.
There was a report from some gravediggers
Okay.
that described this large brown human being with wings. And then later, two couples driving on State Route 62, they had this kind of chilling encounter. And the thing was 7 feet tall, glowing red eyes.
No way.
Yeah. And it chased their car
Oh, my God.
at speeds over 100 miles an hour.
That's terrifying. I mean, those early accounts are so interesting because they're full of these really specific details
Yeah.
that you just can't forget,
Yeah.
right? Glowing red eyes, massive size, super fast and agile. I mean, it's like something out of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But people claim to see it during the day, too, which is even weirder.
Yeah, it is. So what's interesting thing is that Point Pleasant is not the only place with stories about weird creatures. I mean, Appalachia's got tons of cryptids, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why does this region seem to attract those kinds of legends?
I think because, Appalachia is known for these dense forests and rugged mountains and, a long history of being isolated. And that creates a perfect environment for legends and folklore to develop.
Right.
Think about creatures like Ship Squatch or the Flatwoods monster.
Yeah.
They often reflect local anxieties, values, or even try to explain things that people just couldn't understand.
That makes sense.
And Mothman fits right in with all of those, right?
It's these creatures are a part of the landscape.
Yeah.
And part of the culture.
Totally.
Reflecting kind of the unique character of the region.
Totally.
So we have these initial sightings.
Right.
And, of course, people are trying to figure out what the heck they saw. Some people said, oh, it was a giant heron. But that didn't really convince the people that saw Mothman, firsthand.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where Dr. Robert L. Smith's sandhill crane theory came in. So he argued that the sandhill crane, with the reddish markings around their eyes, could be mistaken for Mothman. It's especially in low light. And this theory, it's got some merit. Sandhill cranes are pretty big birds.
Yeah.
And those eye markings, they could look like they're glowing.
That's true. But, I mean, was that theory, widely accepted? It doesn't explain the size?
Right.
Or some of the other weird things people reported? Right?
Exactly. The sandhill crane theory maybe makes sense for some sightings,
Yeah.
but it just can't explain everything.
Right.
And so you still have, skeptics and believers going back and forth even today about this and all the other theories.
Sure.
Some people, they're adamant it was just a bird.
Yeah.
And others say, no way, the descriptions and how it acted, that doesn't add up.
Right, right. Which brings us to those other explanations, right?
Right.
Some of which are pretty out there. We're talking about things like escaped experiments from World War II munition sites,
Oh, wow.
UFOs, government conspiracies.
Right.
Why do you think people gravitate towards these more fantastical theories?
Well, I think it comes down to we just love mysteries and intrigue.
Yeah.
Sometimes a simple explanation just isn't that fun.
Right.
Especially when we're talking about something as strange and creepy as Mothman. Plus, think about the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
Lots of anxieties. The Cold War, Vietnam War, everything was changing socially and politically. So the idea that, there's this unknown and potentially dangerous thing out there lurking in the shadows, that didn't seem crazy at all.
It's like Mothman became a symbol of all that anxiety.
That's
embodying the uncertainties of the time.
Yeah.
But along with the speculation and the fear, there's another side to the story, which is mass hysteria.
Right.
Couldn't some sightings be explained by people getting caught up in the excitement and exaggerating or even making stuff up about what they saw.
That's a great point. Mass hysteria definitely plays a part, I think. When fear and rumors spread like wildfire, they take on a life of their own.
Right.
People might misinterpret what they're seeing or even convince themselves they saw something extraordinary because they've heard so many stories.
Yeah.
There's a whole psychological thing at play here.
Yeah.
Where our brains look for patterns and explanations even when there might not be any.
That's true, but wouldn't that many people experiencing the same thing suggest there's something going on?
That's the thing about Mothman, right?
Yeah.
It's like this puzzle. You've got these consistent, detailed reports from seemingly credible people, but then you have the very real chance of mass suggestion and fear distorting how we see things.
Yeah.
It's this mix of psychology and sociology and this human fascination with the unknown that never goes away.
So how do we, as critical thinkers, how do we deal with that gray area?
Right.
Do we just say, okay, it's all a collective delusion? Or is it possible that there's something genuinely unexplainable going on? Maybe we should dig into that a little more in part 2.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. Got to be skeptical and also open-minded, right? One of the tricky parts with Mothman is trying to figure out what people actually saw and what's just, stories and speculation piled on over the years.
It really is like peeling back layers of an onion.
Mm-hmm.
Each layer gives you something new, but it also makes it harder to get to the truth at the center.
Totally.
But we can't forget, this isn't just about sightings.
Right.
Mothman's also connected to a real tragedy. The Silver Bridge collapsing in December 1967.
Oh, right. That was awful. 46 people died.
Yeah.
It shook that whole area. And it makes sense that people would look for reasons why,
Yeah.
Try to find meaning in something so horrible and seemingly random.
Right.
And happening just over a year after all those Mothman sightings, it's no wonder people started saying, oh, the creature was some kind of omen.
Like they needed someone or something to blame to make sense of this senseless tragedy. But is there any real proof that Mothman caused the bridge to collapse, or is that just another layer of the onion?
Well, Mothman as a harbinger of doom, that's a powerful image for sure.
Yeah.
But we got to stick to the facts. When they investigated the bridge, it turned out there were major problems with how it was built. That's what made it collapse. There's nothing solid linking Mothman to it.
So we're saying it was just a coincidence then? The timing of the sightings and the collapse.
We can never say for sure, but it's important to, look at what we know for sure.
Okay.
The bridge collapsing, that was a tragedy with a clear cause, nothing to do with cryptids. But that doesn't change how much this event impacted the whole Mothman story.
It feels like the bridge collapse locked Mothman into Point Pleasant's history. And it made the story blow up even more, right? Like nationally.
Absolutely. John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, that came out in 1975, that really cemented Mothman as a cultural phenomenon, He tied the sightings to all these other weird things happening. UFOs, men in black, people having premonitions.
Keel's book really took things up a notch, huh?
It did, yeah. It went from this local legend to, this huge mystery about all these things we don't understand.
Right, tapping into all our fears about the unknown.
Exactly.
And the unexplainable.
Keel introduced this whole idea of Mothman as maybe a messenger from another dimension.
Oh, wow.
Like he was part of this bigger web of paranormal stuff. And the book really resonated with folks looking for explanations beyond the everyday.
Yeah.
It just added fuel to that growing fascination with Mothman.
And then, of course, there's that movie from 2002 with Richard Gere. That brought the story to even more people. It's crazy how Mothman is everywhere now.
I know, right? Books, movies, documentaries, you name it. They even have that Mothman festival in Point Pleasant.
It's amazing. This town took a potentially scary legend and turned it into something they're proud of. Something that brings in money, too.
Yeah.
They even got Mothman cookies and crafts and stuff. What do you think that says about how we relate to the unknown? To these creatures that kind of scare us but also fascinate us?
Well, I think it shows that even when faced with something strange and unsettling, we still look for ways to connect, find meaning.
Yeah.
Mothman's become a symbol of Point Pleasant.
Right.
Part of their identity. And the festival, it's fun, it's lighthearted, it's like they've made peace with the legend.
They're not afraid of it anymore.
Yeah.
They even kind of laugh about it.
Exactly.
But let's move beyond Point Pleasant for a second. The Mothman thing hasn't gone away, right? Some say he's still out there, popping up before disasters happen or other weird events.
That's right. People have reported seeing him all over the world before earthquakes, plane crashes, even Chernobyl. Wow. It's like he's this global omen of doom.
That's creepy.
Appearing right before tragedy strikes.
Why do you think people make those connections even now, so many years after the first sightings?
I think, like I said before, we look for patterns, especially when something seems random and chaotic. Disasters are dramatic.
Of course.
And the idea that there might be some kind of warning, some sign, can be strangely comforting.
Like, we want to believe there's order in the universe, even if it's scary.
Yeah.
So, stepping back and looking at the whole Mothman phenomenon, what can we learn about ourselves and how we deal with the unknown?
Mothman, in a lot of ways, he shows how complicated and kind of contradictory our relationship with the world is.
Yeah.
We want explanations, but we also love mystery.
Right.
We like what's familiar, but we're drawn to the strange and the things we don't understand.
He embodies both our fears and our fascination with things beyond our grasp.
Exactly. And as we keep dealing with all this uncertainty in the world, climate change, new technology, social and political stuff changing all the time,
Right.
I think things like Mothman the Unknown, that will always have a hold on us.
That's a really good point. In a world that's so focused on explaining everything and analyzing everything, it's kind of refreshing to have those mysteries.
Yeah.
The things that remind us we don't have all the answers. Makes you wonder, right? I mean, do these legends, do they have a bigger purpose
Oh, absolutely.
besides just, scaring us or giving us something to gossip about?
I think so. I mean, these stories, these legends, they're woven into our culture, you know? They show our values, our fears, how we try to understand these big mysteries of the universe.
Right.
Mothman, he's not just a creature anymore. He's become this symbol of the unknown, of our worries about what's coming next.
It's like we take all our hopes and fears and project them onto him.
Yeah.
But let's go back to Point Pleasant for a minute.
Okay.
You were saying how they've really embraced the whole Mothman thing.
They have.
What's it actually like to visit the town now? Does it feel like you're walking into a real-life Twilight Zone episode?
Well, Point Pleasant definitely knows how to use the Mothman connection to their advantage.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel fake or cheesy, you know?
Okay.
The Mothman Museum is really cool. They have first-hand accounts, newspaper clippings, even a replica of Mothman's footprints, or at least what people say are his footprints.
So it's become a tourist spot. But what about people who live there? Do they actually believe in Mothman, or is it more about town pride and a cool story to tell?
It's both, I think. Some folks swear they've seen him, that it was really Mothman. For others, it's just this fun, quirky part of their town's history. But everyone seems to respect the legend, even if they don't believe it.
That makes sense. It's part of who they are as a community, something that makes them different, gives them a story to tell. And, it makes me think every area has its own version of Mothman, right?
Totally.
Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, the Jersey Devil, Chupacabra.
Yeah.
Why do we keep telling these stories generation after generation?
Because stories are how we understand the world. They help us connect with each other, figure out the big questions about life, death, what happens after.
Right.
These creatures, these cryptids, they're these symbols of the mysteries that we still haven't figured out.
Yeah.
They're a reminder that we don't know everything, that there's still wonder out there in the world.
Right. Like a reminder that there's more to reality than what we can see and touch.
Right.
That our logical, scientific way of thinking, it can't explain everything.
Exactly. And I think that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
We got to be skeptical, sure, but also open-minded, ready to admit there might be things out there we just don't get.
So for our listeners, what's the big takeaway from our Mothman deep dive?
I think it's that legends and folklore give us this look into who we are, our fears, our hopes, that constant fascination with what we don't know. Whether you think Mothman was real or not, his story makes us think about the power of belief, how we see things, and how much we love a good mystery.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best stories are the ones that blur the line between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Leaving us thinking about the mysteries of the universe and all those possibilities that are just out of reach.
Right.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into Mothman. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And maybe even learned something new about yourself along the way. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder. We'll catch you next time.